If you think Sarah is going to find her way through this difficult time, leave your like right now and stay with me until the end, because what happened next will touch your heart deeply. Sarah had been working at the same accounting firm for 25 years, 25 years of dedication, of arriving early and staying late, of missing family dinners to meet deadlines. At 58 years old, she thought she had found her security, her place in the world. But on a cold Tuesday morning in March, everything changed. "Sarah, we need to talk," her manager said, his voice heavy with something she couldn't quite identify yet. As she walked into his office, she noticed the HR representative sitting in the corner, and her heart began to race. She knew. Somehow, she already knew what was coming. "Due to company restructuring, we're going to have to let you go," he said, not meeting her eyes. The words hit her like a physical blow. 25 years of her life reduced to a 15-minute conversation and a severance package that would barely last 3 months. Sarah sat in her car in the parking lot for what felt like hours, staring at the building that had been her second home for so long. The tears came slowly at first, then in waves that shook her entire body. At 58, who would hire her? How would she pay her mortgage, her health insurance? The question swirled in her mind like a storm she couldn't escape. The drive home was a blur. When she walked through her front door, the silence of her empty house felt deafening. Her husband had passed away 3 years earlier, and her children lived in different states, busy with their own lives. For the first time in years, Sarah felt truly alone. The first few weeks were the hardest. Sarah would wake up at 6 in the morning, as she had for decades, only to remember she had nowhere to go. She applied for job after job, but the rejections came one after another. Overqualified, they said. Looking for someone with more energy, others implied. Each rejection felt like another door slamming shut on her future. One evening, as Sarah sat at her kitchen table surrounded by unpaid bills, she felt the weight of despair settling over her like a heavy blanket. She had always considered herself a faithful woman, but lately her prayers felt like they were bouncing off the ceiling. Where was God in all of this? Had he forgotten about her? But that night, something stirred in her heart. She remembered her mother's voice from years past, gentle but strong. "Sarah, honey, when you don't know what to do, you get on your knees and talk to the one who does know." With trembling hands, Sarah pushed the bills aside and knelt right there in her kitchen. The words came haltingly at first, then with growing strength. "Dear God, I don't understand why this is happening to me. I'm scared, Lord. I'm scared of running out of money, of losing my home, of being forgotten. But I know you see me. I know you haven't abandoned me, even when it feels like you have. Please, God, show me what you want me to do. Give me strength for each day, and help me trust that you have a plan, even when I can't see it. I place my life in your hands, Lord. Use me as you see fit. Amen." As she knelt there in the quiet of her kitchen, Sarah felt something shift inside her. It wasn't a dramatic moment, no lightning or thunder, just a gentle peace that seemed to settle over her anxious heart. She opened her Bible to Jeremiah 29:11, a verse her mother used to quote. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." The next morning, Sarah woke up with something she hadn't felt in weeks. Purpose. She decided to stop by the community center where she had volunteered years earlier. Maybe they needed help with their books, she thought. It was a small step, but it felt right. "Sarah!" exclaimed Mrs. Rodriguez, the center's director. "What a blessing to see you. We were just talking about how we need help with our financial records. The city is requiring more detailed reporting, and frankly, we're drowning in paperwork." As Sarah spent the morning helping organize their books, she felt more alive than she had in months. These weren't just numbers on a page. This was a food bank that fed hungry families, an after-school program that kept kids off the streets, a senior center that provided companionship to lonely elderly people. "I know we can't pay you much," Mrs. Rodriguez said apologetically, "but if you're interested, we could really use someone like you a few days a week." Sarah's heart leaped. It wasn't the salary she was used to, but it was a start. More importantly, it was meaningful work. As she drove home that day, she whispered a prayer of gratitude. Over the next few weeks, word spread about Sarah's skills. The community center referred her to a small nonprofit that needed bookkeeping help. Then a local church asked if she could help with their finances. Slowly, piece by piece, Sarah began building something new. It wasn't easy. There were still nights when the fear crept in, when she wondered how she would make ends meet. But each morning she would kneel in her kitchen and surrender her worries to God, asking for strength for just that day. One afternoon, about 2 months after she had started volunteering, Sarah received a call that would change everything. "Is this Sarah Mitchell?" the voice on the other end asked. "My name is David Chen. I run a nonprofit consulting firm, and I've been hearing wonderful things about your work in the community. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in talking about a position with us." Sarah's hands shook as she held the phone. David explained that they helped small nonprofits get their finances in order, apply for grants, and expand their impact. It was part-time work that could be done mostly from home, with occasional travel to visit clients. The salary was modest but fair, and the work was meaningful. "I have to ask," Sarah said during their meeting, "why would you want someone my age when you could hire someone younger?" David smiled warmly. "Sarah, experience isn't a liability in this business. It's an asset. You've lived through economic ups and downs. You understand the value of every dollar. And from what I've seen of your work, you care about more than just the numbers. You care about the people behind them." As Sarah drove home from that meeting, she had to pull over because the tears were blurring her vision. But these weren't tears of despair. They were tears of gratitude. She thought about that night in her kitchen, when she had knelt on the cold tile and placed her life in God's hands. 6 months later, Sarah was thriving in her new role. She was helping nonprofits across 3 states manage their finances more effectively, which meant they could help more people in need. Her income was stable, her mortgage was current, and most importantly, she woke up each morning excited about her work. But the transformation wasn't just professional. Sarah had discovered a strength she didn't know she possessed, a faith that had been tested and proven true. She had learned that sometimes what looks like an ending is actually a beginning. One Sunday morning, as she sat in church listening to the pastor talk about trusting God's timing, Sarah reflected on her journey. She thought about all the people she had helped in her new role, the nonprofits that were now thriving because they had better financial management, the families who were being fed because those organizations could operate more efficiently. She realized that losing her job at 58 hadn't been the end of her story. It had been the beginning of the most meaningful chapter yet. After the service, a woman about her age approached her. "Excuse me, but aren't you Sarah Mitchell? I heard you're helping nonprofits with their finances." "Yes, that's right," Sarah replied. The woman's eyes filled with tears. "I run a small shelter for homeless veterans. We're struggling to keep our doors open because we can't manage the paperwork for grants. Everyone says we need professional help, but we can't afford it. I know this is forward of me, but I've been praying for months for someone to help us. When I heard your name, I felt like maybe this is an answer to prayer." Sarah smiled, remembering her own prayers in that kitchen months ago. "Tell me more about your shelter," she said. "I'd love to help." As they talked, Sarah felt that familiar stirring in her heart, the same one she had felt that night when she first surrendered her fears to God. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. That evening, Sarah knelt in her kitchen again, but this time it wasn't out of desperation. It was out of gratitude. "Thank you, God," she whispered. Thank you for seeing a bigger picture when all I could see was my fear. Thank you for using my pain to prepare me for purpose. Help me never forget that your plans are always better than mine, even when I can't understand them at the time. Sarah's story reminds us that sometimes God allows us to lose what we think we need so He can give us what we actually need. Her job loss at 58 wasn't a punishment. It was a redirection. It wasn't an end. It was a new beginning. When we're in the middle of our storms, it's hard to see the shore. When we're walking through our valleys, it's difficult to imagine the mountaintop, but God sees the whole journey. He sees how every painful step is preparing us for something beautiful. If you're facing a difficult season right now, if you're wondering where God is in your struggle, remember Sarah's story. Sometimes the very thing that breaks our heart is the thing that breaks us open to receive God's greater plan. Hold on to your faith, even when you can't see the way forward. Keep praying, even when your prayers feel like they're echoing in an empty room. Keep trusting, even when trust feels impossible, because God is writing a story with your life that's more beautiful than anything you could write for yourself. Your current chapter isn't your final chapter. Your present struggle isn't your permanent situation. Like Sarah, you may discover that what looks like an ending is actually the most beautiful beginning you could never have imagined. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Have you ever experienced a time when what felt like a loss turned into an unexpected blessing? Share your story with our community. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you're going through a difficult time right now, leave your first name in the comments so we can lift you up in prayer. This community believes in the power of prayer, and we want to stand with you in faith. If Sarah's story touched your heart, please share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes God uses us to deliver hope to others who are walking through their own valleys. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss these stories of faith, hope, and God's amazing grace. Until next time, remember, you are loved, you are seen, and you're never alone.